Hey guys, so welcome back. So today is going to be the first video of our crowdfunding Web3 project. So right now on your screen, what you are seeing is an application that I created in my own free time. Alright, and thought why not share it with you guys. Alright, because before even start writing the contract, this would give you a very good idea of what a campaign is and what its basic requirements would be once it gets deployed as a Web3 application. So this is what a crowdfunding platform looks like. All right, so I have named it as for the crowd, and obviously it has a basic description that it's secure and easier. And then obviously down below you can see all the projects that are currently being funded on this platform and the total amount that's actually gathered from all the projects. So now if we scroll down further, you can actually see each and individual campaign. All right. So obviously I've just named it as test and testing 2, but it could be anything. All right. This could be raising funds for forest fire. All right. Raising funds for drought. All right. For endangered species. All right. So it could be anything. All right. People could come to your platform and create a campaign on a scenario that they like and actually collect funds from other users. So if we take a look at the forest fire campaign, well, it actually has some funds in it. All right, it already has some ether that's being donated from other users in this campaign. All right, and if you see the dollar amount, it's actually $7. All right, so they have actually collected $7 for this specific scenario. And as you can see that their target was actually 0.004 and they have actually gone ahead and achieved that. So this is what all the campaign cards would look like. Alright, so what's this support button? Obviously, this is for you to support the campaign. Alright, so if you click on support, you can actually see the details of each and individual campaign. Alright, so you would see a title, you would actually see a description, and obviously what's the minimum contribution that you can contribute to this campaign. Now, this is not the contribution that you need to give. All right, you can actually donate lower than this contribution. This contribution is only to become an approver in this campaign. All right, and in some time you will actually get to know what an approver for a campaign is. All right, and obviously who created the campaign. So we would give the address, and as you can see, this is my address. All right, because I created the campaign. Now, then you can see the number of requests. I'll get there in a second. And then you can see the number of approvers. All right. And this is the number that increases once you donate above the minimum contribution. And then you can obviously see the campaign address. All right. So this is the actual contract address. All right. And I have provided an Etherscan link on which you can copy this address and paste it on Etherscan to get all the details of this campaign. All right. So all the transaction history. So now let's talk about the campaign balance. All right, so how much amount this campaign has gathered. So currently this campaign has gathered 0.0002 ether. All right, so that comes out to be $0.332. All right, and their target is actually 0.001. So they have some more funds to gather before they can actually modify their target or deactivate this campaign. And obviously then there is the almighty contribute button. All right, so this is actually where you would be specifying the value that you want to contribute to this campaign. All right, so you could actually enter a value in ether in here and click contribute, and then you could contribute some ether to this campaign. And then we move on to view withdrawal requests. All right, so before viewing a withdrawal request, let me tell you what a withdrawal request is. So let's just go into create withdrawal request. All right, so now this is something that is specific to the admin of the campaign. All right, now what is a withdrawal request? Now let's go back to view withdrawal requests. All right, so a withdrawal request is actually something specific for which you want to grab funds from your campaign. All right, so currently the campaign has this much amount inside it. All right, but let's say you don't want all of that amount. All right, let's say you just want half of it. All right, so what you could do is that you could grab funds for some specific kind of thing. All right, so let's say that you are actually collecting some funds for drought. All right, so you actually want to give some water supply, but it won't cause the total amount that's correctly collected in your campaign. All right, so in our case it's 0.002. all right, so you decide that 50% of this amount is actually enough for me. So what the admin would do is that he would create a request specifying the thing that he wants to do, that is supply some water, and actually put in the amount that he wants to grab from his campaign. and then he could provide the receiver's wallet address, and then it goes on to the approvers whether they want to approve this request or not. All right, so this is where the approvers come in. All right, so once you actually donate above the minimum contribution, you become an approver in the campaign. All right, so this gives you some power inside the campaign. All right, so now you have donated some major amount in the campaign and you actually want to see where those funds are going. All right, so this is where you can see where all the funds are going. So you can click view withdrawal request and it would show you all the requests inside of a campaign. And then you can go ahead and see, all right, this guy wants to supply some water for the drought scenario. All right, so you would be like, all right, I'm fine with this amount and I like where the money is going. So you could hit approve, and once the approval count is above 50% of the approvers, all right, so let's say there are 10 approvers, so you need at least 5 approvals for your request before you can finalize it. All right, and this finalize button will only appear for the admin. All right, so once it is above 50%, that is half of the majority is happy where the money is going, you can actually finalize the request and grab those funds from your campaign. And that's how you will complete the whole flow of the cryptocurrency in our application. So what would happen once you actually reach your target? All right, so let's actually talk about this forest fire campaign. All right, so let's click on support and actually see the description. All right, so you would get a notification saying congratulations, you can now either modify your campaign target or deactivate your campaign. All right, so now that you have reached your target, that is, there is an amount in your campaign that is greater than your target. So you have actually reached the amount of the target that you initially set for your campaign. So what you can do is that you can now scroll down below and either modify the target to be greater than the current balance of the campaign. So for this campaign, it should be greater than 0.004369. So either modify your target and keep your campaign alive, or if you are happy with what your campaign has achieved, so you can actually hit deactivate and this will actually deactivate your campaign. All right, and then your campaign won't be shown onto the main page. So what happens to your campaign? All right, so you can actually hit the drop down and you can actually go to my campaigns, and this is where your campaigns get archived. All right, so you can actually see all your campaigns that are active and the ones that are deactivated also. All right, or the ones that are actually archived. So if you want to check the status of an archived campaign, you can go ahead and click check status and it would actually show you archived. All right, and you cannot access any of the functionality of the contract. All right, because it is currently deactivated. But obviously you can see all the previous withdrawal requests. All right, and obviously see who the admin is and how many requests it had, how many approvers it had. And obviously now that your campaign is deactivated, only the admins would have access to activate this actual campaign. All right, so now I am currently inside this campaign as an admin. So what happens is that this activate button pops up. All right, so as an admin, I can actually hit activate to activate this campaign again and start with a new fresh amount. So now that you guys have a complete idea of what a crowdfunding platform would look like, in our case obviously, so let's jump on to our Remix IDE and start creating a basic template for our crowdfunding Solidity smart contract. So here I am inside my Remix IDE and I am inside my workspace CodeCove, and I've created a new script known as campaign.sol. Alright, and I have obviously specified the license, the version, and contract campaign. Alright, so now you guys must be wondering that why crowdfunding? Like, why not anything else? Why not sum of two numbers? Alright, because I mean, this was a beginner friendly course, right? Why after just a mini project jump onto a complex one? The thing is that there is nothing complex about this. Alright, so it might look a little bit intimidating, but it's actually not. Alright, because it only follows the basic principles of Solidity. Alright, and there are only a few of them. So the thing is that why I am making a crowdfunding project is that in this project, this Solidity smart contract is going to cover almost all the concepts that exist in Solidity. Alright, so from structs, mapping, function modifiers, and to deploying multiple contracts, it covers almost everything. Alright, and once you actually create and deploy this contract, this would also force you to call data differently while you're building your front end. So you would also get familiar with how to handle a lot of data once you are calling it from a smart contract. So let's just start by creating a contract which would represent one single campaign. And we would actually deploy multiple of these in order to create multiple campaigns. So this is going to be known as contract campaign. All right, singular, not campaigns. All right, it is one campaign. So let's go back to our application. So I would be actually moving a little bit back and forth from my application to Remix in order to give you a visual representation of what we are doing. So now as you can see that we are actually creating a contract of a single campaign. So what that singular campaign is going to look like is that I am actually going to hop onto my React app and take you to the campaign page. So it's going to have a title, a description, minimum contribution, manager of the campaign, campaign balance, and whether the campaign is active or not. Alright, so let's just deal with these parameters for now. So here I have declared all those variables that are required by our campaign. So I have declared a variable manager that is going to store the address of the manager. So its type is going to be address. And I have also purposely specified this variable as public. Now why choose this variable as public? Alright. Now, the thing is that you always need to keep in your mind what functions you are going to call once you are actually developing your front end. Now, this is obviously going to come naturally once you gain more experience. All right. So the thing is that my thought process currently is that obviously when I am actually going to call all the data from a smart contract, I would obviously need the manager. All right. Every time I would need the manager. So the thing is that I would actually declare this variable as public so that I can directly access the manager anytime we want. Alright, so I could actually create an front-end instance of our contract, directly call .manager and get who the manager of the campaign is. And the same thing we are going to do for minimum contribution. So it's going to be an integer, public and minimum contribution. Alright. Then obviously we are going to define some string as title and description of the campaign. And then we are going to define what the target for this campaign is going to be. And this is also obviously going to be integer. And then we are going to define what the image URL is going to be. Alright, so if you go onto the home page, you can actually see various images for specific campaigns. Alright, so this is actually being pulled from the smart contract. Alright, because if you go onto the create campaign, you can actually specify the image URL. And this URL is actually going to be stored as a string inside of a smart contract. Alright, so string campaign image URL. Alright. And then we are going to define whether the campaign is currently active or not. And obviously this also I have defined as public. And this variable is actually going to be bool, that is boolean. Alright, so it's only going to be true or false. Alright, so currently this is going to be true. So if you are deploying this contract for the first time, this is actually going to be defined as true. Alright, so once you deploy the contract, obviously it's going to be active. Alright, so now that we have declared some variables, why not also specify some function modifiers before we define any functions inside our Solidity smart contract? So the first function modifier is going to be our good old modifier restricted. Alright, so this is going to be a modifier which restricts some functionality of our contract to the manager of the contract. Alright, so modifier restricted, and we are going to define require message.sender is equal to manager. Alright. So if we attach this restricted to any of the functions that we define inside of our contract, this require statement is actually going to run before the function actually runs. Alright. And if the message.sender, that is the one who is currently calling the function, is not the manager of the campaign, then it would just simply return before even executing the function. Then the second modifier that we are actually going to create in our contract is actually known as modifier active campaign. Alright. So now we are going to restrict some functionality in our contract to whether the campaign is active or not. Alright. So if we take an example of contributing to the campaign, alright. So if the campaign is deactivated, you actually don't want anyone to contribute to the campaign. And this is where our active campaign modifier is going to help us. Alright. So what we are going to do is that when we define our contribute function, we are actually going to attach this modifier to it. Alright. So it's going to check whether the campaign is actually active or not. So if it's active, it will allow it to contribute one to the campaign. And if it's not active, so it would just simply return, and we would display a message accordingly that the campaign is currently deactivated and you actually cannot contribute to the campaign. Alright, so we are actually going to define this require statement as simply campaign active status is equal to true. Alright, so whether or not our campaign active status is actually true or not. Alright, so now that we have actually declared some global variables of our campaign, why not obviously initialize them inside of our constructor? Alright, so we are actually going to declare a constructor of our contract, and we are actually going to assign all the values to our global variables. Alright, So we are actually going to define minimum, which is going to be our minimum contribution, which is obviously going to be an integer. And the creator, that is the manager, which is going to be an address type. And then the title of the contract. All right, so this is going to be a string, and obviously we don't want to store it in storage, so we are going to store it in memory. All right, so it's going to remember it only till the execution of the constructor, and after that this variable is going to get dumped. All right, and then we are going to get the description, obviously the description of the campaign, the target that you want to set for your campaign, and obviously the URL, the image URL that you want to set for your campaign. And obviously, as you guys can recall, all the constructor parameters are required while deployment of a smart contract. So once you're actually going to deploy your campaign.sol, you would need to fill all the requirements in the constructor. And this would in turn initialize all the global variables for our campaign. So we are simply going to initialize each variable one by one. Alright, so manager is equals to creator, minimum contribution is minimum, campaign title is title, campaign description is description, campaign target is target, and campaign image URL is URL. So now that we have created a basic starter template for our campaign contract, now we are going to attach some actual functionality to this campaign. Alright, that is contribute, modifying the target, switching the campaign active status from activate to deactivate. But all that we are actually going to do in the next video. So until then, keep chilling at the CodeCove.